Member.
Jeff Blackwell, Building Inspector.
Okay, to start off today's meeting, we have, the owner's name is Olson MHP LLC.
Do you want to announce that there's only three of those?
Oh, I will, once I do is I'll give them the chance to
Right,
request an extension.
okay, sorry.
No problem. So the first case we have is case 1016. Is that 6 or an 8?
6.
Thank you. 1016-2023-1. The owner's name is Olson MHP LLC. Address is 4007 Dean Martin Drive, Las Vegas, Nevada. Applicant is Olson MHP. And representative name is Fieldstone Land Consulting PLLC. Do we have someone representing this case? Would you like to step up to the and announce your name and where your address? That's why you're getting set up. Could you announce your name and your address right for the record?
My name is Mike Pluff. I'm a land surveyor with Fieldstone Land Consultants. We're out in Milford, New Hampshire.
Okay, the reason why I want to mention this is that at the moment, we have only 3 of the 5 full board members present.
Okay.
For the ZBA meeting, you are entitled to have a full board, but you would have to request to extend or
Continue, right.
continue, thank you.
Yep.
Continue it until the next time, and hopefully there would be a full board. You could choose to continue with the 3, and that is the minimum we can have for a ZBA meeting, but would require support from all 3 of us for the variance to pass.
Okay. What if we are going down the road and I could poll the board to see how the board feels? Could I continue it? Like, if I think that we should have more members of the board at that time, can I continue it? Does the continuation have to happen right now?
I believe it's at the beginning of the meeting that you would have to make that call.
All right. When's the next meeting?
It'd be a month from, is it the 3rd or 4th?
Third Monday, always third Monday
of the month.
Third Monday of the month, so.
Is there a recommendation from the board?
We cannot help you with that.
It would be November 20th.
Okay. I mean, certainly, we'd appreciate to have more people on the board, different opinions, what have you. But I guess to be safe, I'd like to continue to the
Okay.
next one.
Continue to next meeting.
Right.
Okay.
And typically, the board does have 5 members.
Actually, we've been having a difficulty having a full board. The last at least 3 times we've been shy of that.
Oh,
Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
We're hoping it changes, but
I guess with that information, I think I'd probably like to go forward.
Okay.
With it.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
You may proceed.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Can you all see
Yes.
the blow up?
Yep.
Okay, again, it's Mike Pluff from Fieldstone, a land surveyor. I'm here tonight to represent a variance application for tax map lot 132 located at 13 Charles Bancroft Highway and owned by Olson MHP LLC. As agent for Patriot Holdings, Fieldstone Land Consultants is submitting this variance application for zoning board of adjustment approval. The proposed variance is for the placement of the community sign within the 10-foot setback area. We propose locating the community sign 1.5 feet from the property line north of Darlene Lane, as demonstrated on the ZBA exit plan that I have right next to me. The Litchfield Estates Mobile Home Park, originally permitted in 1959, currently has 44 residences and is expanding to 99 residences. The park is located on a rear lot and has private network of interior roads. The property has 35.3 feet of frontage on Charles Bancroft Highway and 40 acres of land area. The property is located in the Southern Commercial Industrial Zoning District. And this variance request, the proposed sign placement on the property requires a variance pursuant to Article 1503.01 parentheses D, and that's to locate the sign within the 10-foot setback. So with that, I'd just like to show the board. Here's the overall property right here. It's 40 acres. The area that we're talking about is in this little rectangle here, which is blown up right here. I think we submitted plans for that. The sign, we have a proposed location right here, which is 15 feet in from the right-of-way line and 1.5 feet in from the boundary line. And the reason why we placed it there is pretty much, this is the edge of the existing gravel already. This is wooded over here. So as cars go by, they would not be able to see the sign if it was placed over here. So really the only spot that would be fully visible as cars go by would be in this location right here. And of course, the ordinance says it has to be 10 feet, and we're requesting 1.5 feet. So with that, I can answer any questions you might have right now, or I can go through the criteria.
Any questions from the board?
No, not yet.
I have a couple. So you've obviously, I don't see them on the thing, but you've done the site visibility triangles for the intersection?
The engineers have, yes.
Yep, okay. And the reason why it's, I mean, you're right on the edge. The reason why you can't push it back another 1.5 feet is because,
Probably for snow storage, like this right here, we're trying to stick the distance between the edge of gravel where it exists right now and the property line. And we need a little bit of room here to plow the snow off to the side of the road. So, I mean, we tried to split the difference, basically.
So if you were to follow the ordinance, where would the sign need to be?
The sign would be
In the street,
gravel road.
in the road?
Right.
Okay.
They actually do show in the blow up on those full-size drawings and on here, you can actually see this, they have the setback lines on there.
Okay, right in the middle of the
So-
road.
Isn't there a sign already in the end of that street today?
I'm sorry.
Isn't there a sign already there today?
No.
I drove by on my way here and I actually did not see a sign there.
I
No.
thought there was a sign there, or is it one more property up? There's a sign somewhere up that area, I thought.
Years ago, there was a street sign there.
Street
I think
size,
on the front of his for another sign,
okay.
the houses for sale.
Any other questions, Jerry?
just so I understand, both sides of the road is in the property, right? Both sides, you have the wooded side here.
Right, this is the property boundary line going in.
Oh,
this
okay, all right,
That's what they,
And butters, this is the state and this is in a butter over here.
okay.
So you're actually
Just-
going into the state-owned abutter side?
No, we're in our property.
You're in
Yeah,
the easement.
But the side
access.
that you're on
Oh, yeah, we're on the
is
north
close
side.
to the state's owned side?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
criteria, I guess.
Yes, would you like to step through the
Sure.
criteria?
So, the first criteria is A, and I'll read the town's, question first, and I'll read our answer afterwards. Granting the proposed variance would not be contrary to the public interest because, granting the proposed variance for the placement of the sign within the 10-foot setback will not be contrary to the public interest. Placement of the sign will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. It is an attractive, modestly sized sign. Granting this variance would not threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The placement of the sign would help residents and visitors locate the mobile home park. It will alert passerbys to be aware of traffic turning and entering the park and entering Charles Bancroft Highway. It is for those reasons that we believe that granting the proposed variance would not be contrary to the public interest. B, granting the proposed variance would observe the spirit of the Litchfield zoning ordinance because The spirit of the ordinance is to promote health, safety, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the town of Litchfield, New Hampshire. Locating a sign within the 10-foot setback would help Litchfield inhabitants to locate this mobile home park facility as they approach it from Charles Bancroft Highway. Knowledge of the park's location will promote safely for the users of Charles Bancroft Highway, preventing quick stops to enter the park. Granting the proposed variance would observe the specific provision of the ordinance. The specific provision of the ordinance addresses sign aims to reduce visual clutter by encouraging the effective use of signs and to allow signs that give information and direction and complement the character of the zoning district and surrounding land uses. The proposed sign location will reduce visual clutter by balancing the available land adjacent to Darlene Lane, a private road that has served the entrance to the mobile home park. Locating the sign within the 10-foot side setback will allow for safe maneuvering of vehicles on Darlene Lane. C, granting the proposed variance will do substantial justice because substantial justice is done by granting the proposed variance. The public would realize no appreciable gain from denial of this variance. Granting this proposed variance for a reduced setback to place a sign at the entrance of the mobile home will do substantial justice to the public, to the general public, the property owner, and the residents of the mobile home community. If the variance is denied, it would not be possible to locate a sign for the facility that is visible from the public right-of-way. D, granting the proposed variance will not diminish the values of the surrounding properties because surrounding properties are a mix of residential and commercial facilities. There is no evidence that a proposed sign placement would diminish surrounding property values. And E, literal enforcement of the provisions of this ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship because, and then it goes on to say, owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of the provision to the property because. And our answer to that is the subject property has a special condition that distinguishes it from other properties in the area. The property is a rear lot with only 35.3 feet of frontage along Charles Bancroft Highway. The property then jogs back 748 feet at a width that reduces down to 22 feet before opening up to the developed area of the existing mobile home community. The property will soon host 99 household/residences. Signage at the entrance of the property visible from Charles Bancroft Highway is necessary for the Litchfield inhabitants, emergency services, park residents, and other guests to locate the mobile home park. There's no location on this property that could both satisfy the dimensional requirements of this ordinance and be visible from Charles Bancroft Highway. So no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of this ordinance and the proposed reduced setback for placement of the sign. The proposed use is a reasonable one because it will allow for the mobile home park to have a sign visible from Charles Bancroft Highway to help people and passerbys locate the park. Number 2, if the criteria in subparagraph E, parentheses 1, immediately above are not established owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with this ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable reasonable use of it because the special conditions of the property as set forth above distinguish the property from other properties in the area and prevent the reasonable use of the property in strict conformance with the ordinance. A variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of the property. The narrow access of the parcel limits the ability to place a sign on this property in strict conformance with the ordinance. The variance for a reduced setback for placement of the sign is reasonable because it fits the spirit of the ordinance and no harm to the community. That's what I have.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
So,
Okay.
so why is a sign that large required or needed? It's a residential area, it's a street, why wouldn't a regular street sign be appropriate?
Well, there was a document that was submitted that shows, I mean, a typical sign, I believe, can be 18 square feet, which is, ours is 6 feet by 3 feet. And we had it's an informational, it has the telephone number
Website.
and the website, right. I think was submitted. You want me to submit this to the board, or?
Oh, sure, but I think it's already.
It's on- yeah, it's on the picture,
Yes,
yeah.
you're good.
So you're treating it beyond, it's not, to your point, it's not a street, it's really an entrance to a
Community.
community.
Correct.
Of rental homes, and there are also people who own homes there too, right? I thought they were, how homes were being built.
That's the other part.
That's
on
the new
right,
part here,
yeah,
right?
Which we had to vote on.
That's
for
what I
some of
remember
the-
too,
the
so I
process.
treat it as a street, that's why a big sign is required. You know, I mean, I understand why, you want to attract people to come into the neighborhood, you want people to know it's there.
Right.
I get that part of it. Okay.
You know, honestly, I'll be honest with you, I went by tonight and took a look at it, and I actually missed the entrance of it.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
because
mean,
of the bush,
hard
when
to
you're
see.
coming from the south, coming north, the trees all block the entrance, I do know that. I miss it all the time when I drive by, and I go, oh, there it is, as I drive by. Okay.
Questions?
So it's a gravel road, correct? I didn't get a chance to go out ahead of time,
It's gravel, yes.
Yeah.
At the moment.
at the
It's
moment.
supposed to be paved, though.
So you're gonna pave it as a new paved road?
Right, I believe that the back of the, is already conditionally approved,
Yeah, we approved that before. So I guess my question is, if you just sort of, when you pave the road, if you just moved it 18 inches, center line 18 inches, so you're still within all your, then you would be out.
Well, I think it's fairly narrow as it is right now. I don't have the design plans in front of me to know what the pavement width is gonna be. But I don't think it's gonna be much different than what it is right now. So you're saying to narrow up the road?
No, I'm
Slide
just
it,
saying
slide
shift the road
Shift it
18
so-
inches.
My guess
When you
is-
pave the road, if you shifted it 18 inches, you would then clear. Because see, the 10-foot's sitting off that 10-foot line,
Right.
you know, and so if the road just shifted 18 inches towards your property, then you'd be outside of it. I don't know, I mean, because I think what you're proposing is I'm just gonna pave the existing gravel road.
Well, in fact.
18 inches is just this much.
Right. But it's 18 inches off the property line.
We'd still need a variance.
We still need a
need-
variance
still need a
because this is, we'd have to be into the road in order for the sign to not need a variance.
Okay. All right.
And I also, Jerry, I think it's also cut into Chalmers Bancroft, which means I would assume there's a state approval to move the opening, right? To slide that road down with the curb cut kind of deal.
Potentially, correct.
Well, right, but again,
Well,
based on the location of the sign and the width of the paving, if that were all shifted over, again, you can see
Still
the
a
white,
different lot.
right, on the lower side of the gray
Yeah.
is, it's just land.
Yep.
If you shifted the pavement, you would gain more space on that other side.
Yeah.
Now, would you still, it would still be in the setback, yes.
Yep.
But it could be moved further from,
Right, it won't be 1.5, it would be.
physically could be moved further from the property line. if
there's an
that's-
opportunity to, I guess, improve the situation. If it was already paved, I'd say, yeah, it's done. So I don't know. I just, it's more of a question of, was there any thought to, again, the opening be the same. It comes in like, it's got these angled openings, and we talked about visibility triangles. And
What's the guidance of so if you move the road south against the other property line, how far off the property line can the edge of the road be at?
That's completely up to NHDOT.
So they'd have to go to-
Yeah, it's their, it's all their, because that's state highway.
Well, I don't wanna-
It's their rules, but they're not, it's in essence, you're not necessarily changing it, because again, that's just showing the gravel. You can't actually pave that as it is.
Right.
Because part of it's going on to the state's property, so you can't even pave it that way. So,
Gotcha.
it's proposed as a 20-foot wide access drive. Because of the limited width to begin with on that entire stretch coming through
I
there.
ca- I
So
can't
they'll
remember-
have a radius, whatever's allowed by, you know, I'm sure they'll do the maximum allowed by the state,
State,
just to widen it up a little bit more at the intersection.
is there anybody here from the state that opposes it?
Oh, I think that's next. After, if we're done with questions, we can open up the floor to, anybody in attendance that would like to speak for or against, this proposal, this variance. Please come up and state your name. Thank you.
Gary Melbourne, 11 Charles Bancroft. My property line butts theirs.
On the other side.
Oh, here we go. This is my.
You're on the
property
south
line
side.
here. I don't mind the sign going over there. I don't understand what this cutout is. As far as I know, Darling Lane goes straight out to 3A.
I think that just shows the gravel, as it stands now. That's the theory on the
And is the
diagram.
sign for the trailer park or is it for the 99 houses going in up back?
It's for the, I guess, the community. It's all.
Both.
It's named the same thing.
Yeah, I would say both.
Both.
It's both.
This is what, and Malvern, this is what the bottom of their driveway looks like, because the residents are going beyond the cement post and using that as part of their driveway.
Turn out that way, yeah.
Yes, do you wanna?
Sure.
Yeah, could I?
I mean, certainly paving it will solve that problem, but,
It's not my property.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, this is what I see, okay. And that granite post is the marker for the state property?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
As
No.
far as I know, previous owner put it in back
Yeah,
in
no,
something
I'm-
on the water line.
No, I know.
Yeah, you think,
I
okay.
don't know
Yeah.
if that's the edge of the
So,
property or not.
you're in a butter and you're not, disapproving the signage.
No, it's just when you mention the street and how it veers out,
Yeah.
this is how it does it from being
We
used.
wouldn't have opposed it if it was on our side.
Right,
Yes.
understood. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against the motion, or the variance, excuse me?
Thank you.
Okay, hearing none, I'd like to hear a motion out to close public input.
I motion to close public input.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, we have closed the public input part of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deliberation, any issues with the variance as stated?
I don't, I guess if the road can't be moved, obviously, even if it's gonna encroach anyway, you gotta do a variance either way.
Right, that's kind of the way I looked at it, is that, in order for them to actually have a sign for this community, which is, I think, reasonable, there's no reasonable way to follow the rules for this particular setback and still have a road there.
Yeah.
Right, I would then say that would be the uniqueness of the site,
Exactly.
of that particular. And the actual effect of the setback is nominal enough to where, I mean, it wouldn't be visual to the, what would I say, the naked eye or whatever. It wouldn't be a visual distraction. We talked about clutter and stuff like that. It's the only
Blocking,
sign.
traffic, and if anything, it helps traffic by providing a visual.
Right.
Without
Right,
disrupting
and
their
the
view.
larger the sign, the better in this particular example, because it gives, when you're coming up, especially at night,
It's snow.
it gets pretty, in snow, it gets pretty dark, so yeah, and going through the criteria, I think the intent of the ordinance has been met, and I don't see any issues why we wouldn't be able to.
Would you like to entertain a motion then?
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve Case 101620223-1. Oh, let me get to the right page.
Section one.
Yes, yes. Section 1503.01, paragraph D. Granting the proposed variance within the 10-foot setback of 1.5 feet from the property line north of Darlene Lane as demonstrated by the plans.
Second.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, and basically what the motion was, to approve the variance with the diagram provided,
Yep, mhm.
correct? Okay,
As demonstrated.
as demonstrated in diagram of, variance package. Okay, motion's made, it's been second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passed 3-0.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's a good thing you didn't wait. I'm just kidding. That was, I should, I'm not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say that.
Wait.
What you just
strike
did.
that.
Strike that from the record.
Matt, strike that from the,
All right. Alrighty, so the second case we have for tonight is, let me see, this is by the Bergeron Family Trust, 2008. Owners of, applicant's name is Robert Lafort. Applicant's address, 126 Talent Road, Litchfield, New Hampshire. The variance is requested of the zoning ordinance for the following reasons. Please see attached.
Yep.
Yes, we do. Yes, there's a bunch of copies here.
thank you.
Okay. The variance is requested from section 1001.00 and section 901.00H of the zoning ordinance for the following reasons. Oh, what is the variance? I'm trying to pull that out of this.
1001 and 901, section
901.
H. It's acceptable use, I believe, and.
Acceptable use, okay.
Right, 1001 is use of property, right, the acceptable use? I was just looking at
Where
the,
is the-
901 is the mix of commercial and residential allowable.
right, the allowable use, yep.
Okay, so it's allowable use variance, section 101.00, section 901.00, the zoning ordinance for the property identified where? I'm having problems pulling this information out of the package.
Property,
It's Charles, 65 Charles Bancroft Highway,
Yes.
Litchfield? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think we finally got the title up front. Would you like to speak to and state your name and address and
and do they
present
wanna
your
go
case?
with three people?
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. That's true. Thank you very much. I always forget that. So at this time, we only have 3 members of a full 5-member board. You have the opportunity to delay your case if you wish to try to get a full board. With 3, you would need 3 votes in the affirmative to support your variance.
Sure.
Would you like to proceed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, members of the board. Thank you, Mr. Jeff Blackwell. He's been very helpful throughout this process to get this application before you. Just a little context on this. Mr. Lafort, or Rocky as I refer to him, is a small business owner and a resident of Litchfield. He's looking for a place to operate his business in town. And the purchase and sale agreement was signed for 65 Charles Bancroft Highway, tax map 3, lot 1, where portions of the property lie in the Southern Commercial Industrial Service Zone, and contractor services, including landscaping, are prohibited. Nonetheless, there are aspects on the eastern side of the lot, essentially one right angle triangle, which lie in the transitional district, where the prohibited use, the mixed use of commercial and residential are allowable under section 901H. With that said, I would just add to the board that the time is of the essence for this because it is a purchase and sale agreement, and so we will not have the luxury to delay. We need a decision from the board this evening. So as I said, Mr. Lafort is a resident of Litchfield, a small business owner. He's seeking to construct a 30,000-foot square gravel parking lot on 65 Charles Bancroft, next to the pre-existing garage on the property to transport, maintain, and park his landscaping vehicles overnight and during off hours. These company vehicles include a 21-foot trailer, a 18-foot trailer, a hydroseeder, a skid steer, a mini excavator, 1 flat deck trailer, 4 company trucks, 3 of which are dump trucks, and employee personal vehicles during the workday. I just want to clarify the board, the applicant does not intend to operate the entirety of his business, nor accept deliveries on this property. He's merely seeking to use the rear of the lot prior to the wetlands, which we'll discuss a little bit later, to store and maintain those vehicles. Incidental property is an existing non-conforming residential building from 1840, which the applicant is seeking to continue to rent as a residential property. There's a pre-existing barn on the property, which the applicant may store some vehicles in, but will essentially remain untouched. And the buildings on the property will remain as is, except for those reasons mentioned herein. So just giving a little context, if the board has any questions, and I can just get to the 5 criteria.
Any questions at this point?
No, I think, yeah, let's go through the criteria. I might have some after that, but.
Great. Sure. So the first is the requested variance will not be contrary to the public interest. Basically, what this means is it's not contrary to the basic zoning objectives of the zoning ordinance, nor would it alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. The applicant here has contemplated and taken many steps to ensure that any deviance from the zoning ordinance will not change the local character, locale, or detriment the public rights of the Litchfield residents. The property uniquely has a tree line which cuts off visibility from the road. In addition to that, if you just look across the way from 3A, from where this lot is, it is zoned in a permissible use. So in other words, this strip of 3A is contemplated in the ordinance to be appropriate for the proposed use here, which is the use of the contractor's yard and taking out those larger vehicles. I would also just cite to the purposes, the general purposes of the ordinance, which you can see in section 202.22, which is promoting the health, safety, and welfare of the population. I can say that the applicant has taken steps more than required to get preliminary reviews, and in good faith is under the belief that all safety permits will be issued. Another point of the basic zoning objectives is to implement the goals of the Litchfield Master Plan, which we will discuss later, but which contemplate that the town desires to maintain that historical look and feel along 3A, and also consider that the commercial developments and the challenges which they face along the northern and southern aspects of 3A. Other objectives of the zoning ordinance include minimizing the impact on the natural environment, which we'll discuss a little bit later about the wetlands. And then there's providing a variety of housing opportunities, broaden the town's tax base, and provide increased employment opportunities. I think that this plan speaks for itself. We're retaining that residential unit, but also allowing Mr. Lafort to operate his business, allowing the property values to increase through development, and also allowing him to offer employment opportunities to Litchfield residents. The next objective of the zoning ordinance is to minimize the impact of traffic flow. Here, this property is unique that it lies on 3A, and so we're of the good faith belief from our discussions with the stakeholders here, that it's going to be able to be done safely, engineerily sound. In addition, the other objectives are to encourage the development of balance and harmonious land uses in various intensities and protect the character of the town, which we'll come back to. The second criteria is the spirit of the ordinance observed, and this is very similar to the first ordinance, so I just incorporate my answer into this one as well. But just to add on to that, I'd say that this proposal is modest in scope and size. It's merely seeking to store these business vehicles on the lot. It's seeking to retain those historical architectural elements that are on the property, and it also utilizes those street access points contemplated for the proposed use. So, taking these things in consideration, the access to the route of 3A, the current use of the surrounding properties just across the street, it is zoned for this proposed use. And then if you look just south of the property, there are just de facto use of similar vehicles. The fact that the portion of the property lies in the transitional district where mixed and residential commercial use is allowable. As I mentioned, the border with the commercial district, the efforts of the applicant to place this in a area of the lot which is minimized line of sight to those vehicles with this kind of unique tree line. And I would just add, and I'll actually just we'll move on from that. Other than just the master plan does encourage the preservation of the town's rural and natural feel, and so that's what we want to do here, is keep that building on the lot the way that it is, and keep those cars, those business vehicles set back, not visible to the public, using 3A in a safe way in an area of the town which is essentially surrounded by areas where this would be a permitted use. Substantial justice is done. I really like this quote on the substantial justice, and I like to cite to it. The only guiding rule on the factor is that any loss to the individual is not outweighed by a gain to the public. Public is an injustice. Here, the public has little to gain when we're talking about bringing in a small business, employment opportunities, increasing the tax base from development, and also supporting a business owner who's a local and who has lived here for 13 years. In addition to that, retaining those kind of things in the master plan, which is limiting that development onto those northern and southern parts of 3A, and then also retaining that New England charm of the area. The values of the surrounding properties are not diminished because, and I think this is just the general rule of thumb, is that where there's development, there's an increase in the values of surrounding area. I can at least represent to the board today that I have a letter from a realtor of 16 years who supports this proposition that this will not detrimentally impact the property values of the surrounding area. And then on to the fifth one, the notorious literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And we're going to go for A. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of the provision of property. And so I'll just go into it because there's a lot of things that are very unique about this property that establish this hardship. First, I'll say that the subject property only has access to any public road, and that public road is 3A, and that's on the western side of the property. Second, although the property is over 18 acres, it is a long rectangular lot, which is divided approximately 25% in, maybe a little bit less, and this by wetlands, which completely isolate the western portions of this property from the eastern portions of this property. And these kind of challenges in development along 3A is also contemplated in that master plan, where they understand that these commercial districts that were zoned suffer from poorly drained soils, including wetlands. And I would just add that, I think going back, to the fact that this is a split zone, so you have on the western side of the property where this non-conforming building exists. This is in the industrial commercial service zone. And then if you look on the eastern side of the property, which is isolated and cannot be accessed without a special permit, just this transitional district, just this sliver, even if the applicant were to get a special permit to cross onto the wetlands and to utilize that district, he would still need the variance to transport the vehicles. I'm under the opinion still need the variance to transport the vehicles across and make use of that Route 3 access. So And also, I would just say, not standalone, but the fact that the developable area is straddled by those buffer zones, that it's met by that wetland, and that developable area is all non-conforming a building. It would cost a lot for the applicant to demolish it. And again, I believe that in the master plan, and I think in the interest, in the spirit of the ordinance, that town has an interest in retaining those historical buildings. And so taking all those things together, the access to 3A, the shape of the lot, the where the wetlands are, how the wetlands completely isolated, the fact that it's split zone, all comes together to establish the substantial hardship. And with that said, I would say that the property use is a reasonable one. The request is modest, where it leaves the residential dwelling unit untouched. It minimizes any change to the property and surrounding areas. It's gonna avoid interfering with the wetlands and the natural environment on the property. The storage of these vehicles will be obstructed from view by the tree line at the rear of the property. And as I mentioned before, this mixed commercial residential use is contemplated in the transitional zone. And additionally, this strip of 3A is at least contemplated to be appropriate for these kind of vehicles. And I would just represent to the board today that the applicant has reached out to New Hampshire Department of Transportation. And I know this is a planning board thing and we're getting ahead of ourselves now, but just to show that the applicant has done all that he can to make a good faith showing that this can be done correctly, it can be done safely, and it can be done well. So with that said, those are the 5 criteria, and I look forward to any questions or concerns the board may have, and we would also be open to any stipulations that the board might have to make this project work. Thank you.
Jeff, can you explain to us what the prohibited use of part of their property is, and that's why they're coming before? Can you explain the
Yeah,
use
so
thing?
first, there's a couple copies of that color, right? Just to help identify exactly which zones we're in. So you see the blue outline is the property. Okay, so that small yellow triangle
The rear
on the
back.
backside is the transitional. Okay, just that little tiny section, okay?
And that's, that would be in the wetlands, right? Is that far back?
That's way back.
Or the other
Right,
side of it, it's probably.
Yeah, no, the wetlands,
In between, I
Oh, so
believe.
wetlands
yeah,
would be
no,
in
the
between.
wetlands are much closer to Charles
Kind
Bancroft.
of through there, if you take a look at this
Right.
map.
Yeah, so I'm trying to line it up, right? Like, yeah, okay.
So it is primarily, right, 90% of this, 95% of that property is in the Southern Commercial Industrial Service District. Okay.
So,
Landscaping businesses, contractor businesses are not a permitted use in that district. Across the street, you can see the other, yeah,
Side.
slightly, yep. That is the Southern Commercial District.
that's the farm, isn't it, across the street, isn't it? Or fields?
Yeah, that's Fields.
Yeah, it's fields.
Right. But that is Southern Commercial.
Yeah.
Contractor businesses, landscaping type of thing are permitted uses in that district.
So essentially, it's permitted on this side, and that yellow is permitted, but not.
No, not the yellow.
Yellow is
No,
not
it's not permitted in the yellow.
Okay. That's the part I was
Right,
confused about.
right.
So am I right, to the south though is Licks and the storage facility?
Correct.
I'm sorry?
South of this is
Yeah.
Licks and the storage
That's
facility.
right there.
Yeah.
South, yeah, 55 is the
Okay.
storage, and
And the only reason this would be denied, was requires it because it's a landscaping business? I mean, this business.
it's not a
is so-
permitted use.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Because it's industry.
it's, you have very limited
Yeah.
permitted uses in the district.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was-
Yeah, warehousing, assemblies, wholesale businesses, research, testing labs. It
and
just,
Retail was, it was in there, it was available too, right? Wasn't it retail?
no,
So how does Licks get there?
I don't know. I didn't research it. It's not, yeah,
Just very curious, that's all.
right.
That
Okay.
is not part of this case.
No, but, well, it was presented as evidence that to the south there is like
Right.
kind of
They're
businesses.
abutting a.
And so it doesn't,
That-
it
which
mixes
is right
well.
there.
Right, but it mixes well with their
That's
use
correct.
case.
So that is
So,
apropos.
looking at the plan, like, I see the gravel, that's where you're gonna park your vehicles. I'm assuming your employee vehicles will park in place of the vehicles they leave. There's a garage there. Is that garage there today, or is that something you're gonna construct? There's a garage in the plan between two trees, looks like.
I think it's
Kind
the
of
back
Garage,
of the
oh,
barn.
that's a, it's not actually a garage, it's a large shed.
Okay, yeah, it's marked as garage.
Yeah, it's just a
And then
big
there's the
shed.
barn. I didn't even realize there was a barn back there.
Big barn way over there.
Yeah, I go by it all the time. I see the house, because it's close to the road, you can't
It
miss it.
looks
but-
like it's connected to the house, but there is
Oh,
a
okay,
separation.
then I
there.
get, that's all right, so I didn't realize it was a barn. All right, cool.
So, your material storage yard somewhere else, this is just vehicle staging?
Vehicle staging, the occasional pallet of material, we take it off of a truck. We know we're gonna use it in a couple weeks. We don't return it. We just put it down.
We're not setting up all these little things with piles and piles of, okay?
Nope. I
So-
don't wanna be a material storage center. I don't wanna sell materials.
You
That's
wanna
not what I do.
get them and use them.
That's it.
Yep, okay.
And your plan is to have pretty much all of the vehicles and stuff pretty much off the road, you can barely see it. from-
Pretty much out of sight. You might be able to see it,
As-
where
as
we
you whiz
pull
by,
in,
yeah.
but for the most part, you shouldn't be able to see any of the commercial vehicles.
Like I said, you can barely see the barn.
Right, exactly. I know.
Well, I have a concern. It's sort of irrelevant, I just wanna bring the point up, but whenever I see a bunch of commercial vehicles parked on gravel, I automatically think of an environmental impact of leaking oil, hydraulic fluids, and things like that, so, I would just like to make the statement that obviously there should be some sort of awareness of that, how it's done. Cleanups are done in situations to meet all environmental requirements. So, if it was pavement, it's a little easier, but obviously then it's even worse to the environment because it's non-pervious soil, so. So, yeah, in a bunch of cars, all cars leak oil, but when you get these large pieces of equipment, especially that have hydraulic fluid, there's a concern, so. I raised that, it's not a requirement of this, I just, as a point of concern, so.
Any further questions, John, Jerry?
No,
No,
Okay, we can open up the floor for anybody from the audience who is for or against this variance.
looking far and wide, don't say anything.
Okay, hearing none. Do I hear a motion to close public input?
I have a motion to close public input.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we can now deliberate.
Jeff, any concerns about Concom potentially weighing in just because of the wetlands? I know that was mapped as a stream, it's mapped as a wetland, but it's considered to be a stream, so a seasonal stream and not a wetland, whatever the difference is.
I don't believe it was identified as far as the type of wetlands.
Oh,
This
I
would
thought
all
it
go,
was-
this obviously will go to planning,
Yeah.
so
Oh, so it does have to go to planning.
we'll have to go to planning,
Okay.
correct? Yep.
So the way I look at it, this is zoned in industry, so industrial, and an industrial site would have vehicles and equipment. So for me, that's not a big issue. The other part is that right across the street it is acceptable. So why is one side of the street good and one side of the street not so good? And last part of my view is that right now it's residential because there's a house which is not part of the industry, industrial, I keep saying industry, the industrial zone, but we do have housing there. So the fact that the applicant is looking to try to keep the character of that strip of old buildings and old houses while adding to the industrial base of the town, I think is a positive thing for the town. And the main reason for having these zoning areas for industrial is to try to bring commercial into the town. So I think that even though it doesn't match the exact ordinance for the use, I think I kind of
Right.
support this.
I
this-
agree.
Well, I agree. I think it's detailed, spelled in the 5 criteria. It meets all of the 5 criteria, which would be the basis for approval of a variance, so I agree.
Would you like to Can I start with the
Can I
motion?
just add one thing?
Yes, please.
In terms of enforcement and moving this forward to planning, if it were to be approved. The initial, application came in as parking only.
Okay.
I'd heard that we're now adding in some storage for some period of time. So just give that some consideration.
Right, and that was my question, and I think the response I'm responding to is, it's all temporary, job-specific, on-site, and to be used that, it's not a stockpile, it's not for future projects. Any material stored on-site would be for an active job.
Correct.
And
Or the
use.
next job that we're going to, we might unload it. It might sit there for 2 days. We reload it and we take it off site.
But I'm just, like, I can't enforce, that's not enforceable.
Right.
For me. So if it's allowed,
Understood.
so if the material is allowed, then I just wanna make sure
Oh, understood.
that part's clear, because I can't, there's no way I can go by and say, oh yeah, the material is here for 2 weeks and go.
Yeah, nor do I want you to use
No,
your,
I
use your
appreciate that.
time.
I appreciate
in
that.
I
marking
I just
it-
wanna-
Marking it with a chalk.
I would assume if you start seeing racks with stacks,
Well,
that's a whole different picture.
I have no reason to
A
believe
skid
you
on the
wouldn't.
ground
I
with
think-
whatever, and then take it away is not the thing.
Right.
Or a temporary
Yep.
trailer with it on it that stays and you take it off the job site is fine. If they construct a building to put stuff inside to protect it, that's another problem.
So understand, there's a concern about that. I think at this point I think the board has no reason to believe you wouldn't, make it long-term storage. So,
Would you like to try to state a motion?
yeah, I was looking for all the, I gotta have all the.
So for case 10162023-2 is the case number?
Yep, and I'm
Section
looking
one zero
for
zero one and then section
901, I'm just looking,
one, section H or paragraph H.
yeah, like he said.
As long as Matt can figure it out, we're good.
Here it is, okay. All right, so I'll make a clearer one now. So I'd like
Thank you,
to,
Jerry.
I'd like to make a motion, the board's approval of a variance requested from section 1001.00 and section 901.00, paragraph H.
For case 10162023-2.
For case, it's not on my sheet, why am I not finding it?
How about the cover page?
Here.
Oh, no.
All right,
no.
okay, there it is. Okay, for case 10162023-2.
To grant the variance to allow the contractor use of 65 Charles Bancroft Highway.
Yeah, as proposed for parking and staging of vehicles.
Parking and staging of vehicles.
Oh, it's usually not that tough.
No.
Somehow I got through it.
You gotta help us,
Oh,
Jeff.
too much paper.
Thinking there's so much.
Okay, so there's the motion.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That variance passes 3-0.
Thank you very much.
I'll write the decisions for you in a second.
Now time for planning.
Tried to write it down this time, but last time I didn't even.
I'll just wait
See,
for Matt to
that's-
just-
Okay, so
No, it is. I mean, it's more details. It's just,
Details are fine.
approved for the use, so.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. Yeah, appreciate it.
Don't thank me, I'm just doing my civic duty.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Joan's in on
everyone's
Thursday,
civic
so.
duty.
Joan is on, yeah, Mondays and Thursdays, so
All right,
I'll let her know. Yeah, okay.
So those are the two cases. We just received 2 extra packages to consider for tonight. So this was the case that we voted on to, that we disapproved the shed
Oh, yeah.
by the paper road, what is it called?
Yeah,
Access
over
road?
by the school,
Right.
yep.
By the access.
Nine Warhawk, right.
And for us to consider reopening, there had to be new information, I believe.
That was gonna be my question. Is there new information? The
Do you have-
Packages, yep, it's, those are all individual packages for you to read. I believe that,
You're just gonna, if I don't.
So say, good morning, Jeff. Just wanted to add one more
That's-
thing to our request. Is
no,
that-
it's that whole package is what was submitted. So the first part, yes, it looks like the application. Yep, so that was initially submitted,
Okay.
and then the email.
Oh,
was-
okay, thank you.
Was a slight
Yeah,
follow-up.
that's
and
what I was
then-
about to read,
And then this,
is the new
Attorney
information.
Coleman was
Okay. Let me read the
submitted.
emails.
So again, my understanding right now, just so you're aware, is that I believe that they were looking for a full board.
Okay. And there's nobody here to
make
represent that at this
They don't
time.
have to be
That's
here for the,
correct.
they don't have to be here for that.
Oh, okay, good. Thank
This
you
is
for
just a determination of to open the case and let them represent.
that. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
So, good morning, Jeff. Just wanted to add one more thing to our request for rehearing. As for one uniqueness of the location, because we plan on storing a vehicle in the shed, is to be placed where it's accessible for a vehicle, and this is the only spot on our property where it can be accessed by a vehicle, as it is right next to the driveway. We cannot put another driveway going to behind the house, as it would have to go over the septic system in Litchfield. Not to mention wiring and water pipes coming from both well that supplies a house with water and the in-ground sprinkler system. Okay, so they're considering using the shed for a vehicle, and that's their new information, I believe. Okay.
That's unchanged.
But yeah, that's the way I
They
understood
wanted
it
to replace
before.
what they have existing with something that's more,
I think what they're saying, they're trying to determine hardship, that they would have to like move their irrigation system to put it somewhere else. I don't think there's an issue with pavement over the water line. I mean, as we were working through this, I was trying to kind of help them. You got the uniqueness, and it was just always, well, there's no other way. So I think maybe this is what they're trying to do here is,
So that's one. The other part is, from, Andrew Perlman to the town, and to the board. Based on our discussions, they're saying that our conclusion about the size of the road is incorrect. First, they said that there was no talk of whether that road was actually gonna be a road. That's section one on the Pullman page. Section two is or paragraph two, another apparent misunderstanding by the board is the width of the roadway within the ROW right of way. The board's discussion read as if the non-existent road will be 50-foot wide. This is not the case. Please attach table of geometric standards for Litchfield subdivision. The improbable road right of way would be 24 feet wide, typically centered within the right of way.
okay, so that's not the way I thought the road was 24 feet, it shows at 24 feet. The 50-foot is the setback, because
That's the
it's
setback.
considered a
The
front
center,
yard.
right, so, yeah.
So we never determined the road to be 50 feet. Or,
The actual right-of-way is 50.
I think what happened is when we determined it to be a road, then it became a front yard, and that's where 50 feet came in, and we're 10, because remember, we were originally thinking we only had a 10-foot setback, but once that became a road, that became a front yard, and that became 50 feet. So we didn't think the road was 50 feet wide. We just determined that that road would establish that as a front yard, and that's where we went 50 feet. If they wanted to argue the point that no, okay, the road's the road, it's not a front yard anymore, it's 10 feet, it's still within the, I mean, I think what happened was, once we determined that it was a front yard, that it became excessively into the setback,
Right.
as opposed to just a,
so I wasn't here,
lot into the
so I wasn't here for the deliberative on the case, but question, Jeff, what was the school's position on the right of way today? I mean, the easement? Do they plan on putting a road there? Do they have any objections on putting a building along? the
They did
property?
not, they did not state either way.
Yeah, they didn't respond.
So because there is no information, we have to assume that that still is a viable right of way for the school, because they did not
Sure, but
comply either way.
Sure, and I don't think we should probably deliberate here, but
Right.
if we either take the action of allow them to come back and state their case, and we can deliberate again,
So I,
some more, or don't, but, you know, again, that access way right now abuts the baseball field, it abuts the building and storage, I just don't personally see them ever using it in lifetime, but that's just my own personal opinion. I mean, if they wanna come back in and bring Attorney Pullman in to state their case and see if they can sway the minds differently than they did before,
Well,
then
the new information would be they got something from the school now, and they've got, that's the new, and then in
Yeah.
that case, then yeah, that's what the whole
yeah, I
sort
don't
of
see any
process
new
is for.
information other than that they didn't feel that we deliberated.
Correctly.
Appropriately, I believe.
So I was looking at
That's
this,
what the letter says.
in this back sketch, see, here's the right of way. Originally, we said it was 10 feet the first time they came, then we said, wait a minute, if that's a road, that's frontage, and now, you know, this is that's why we got 50 and 50.
Right.
So,
so is this where they're proposing it now? No,
no, the shed's 2 feet away from the property line.
okay.
Yeah,
Or
so-
the shed, well, then my first response was, is this a garage? And they said, no, but then they said, yeah, we're storing his a Corvette in there, which,
Yeah.
irrelevant what kind of car it is, but. So it was just,
I don't feel that there is new information, in order to re-deliberate. That's my opinion.
well, if they could just elaborate on the information, it's like, I can't do it because of this, I can't, well, why because of that? I mean, no offense, but I can move a sprinkler system relatively quick, but that's not for me to determine how easy it is to move, you know, your irrigation system. Pavement over water pipes, that, I mean, we do that, that's standard construct. So, but I think if, again, there's new information, they just need to give it to us to, I was here, they didn't give me anything that showed this site was unique in any way, shape, or form, except for an existing irrigation system.
Right.
And so, how about this, or what about this?
So we don't need to take action on this, but,
Well, we do, we have to make.
Well, we have to say yes
vote-
or
we have
no.
to
But,
make a
okay, so-
recommendation. We have to approve them to come
but-
back, or deny them to come back. We can deny them and leave it there,
Or you can continue it to make that decision to next meeting.
right.
but then you do,
Okay, well, I'm not gonna be here next week. Okay, so let me just, my other comment is, I mean, the information in this package, if, I guess we can say yes, based on the fact that we're going to see an expanded amount of the information that, give them a second shot, but I'm not saying because, and you're right, it has to have new evidence. I think what it is they never presented the existing evidence to its full extent.
Right.
And so if they
Give them another
did,
chance.
I would consider that to be new
Okay.
evidence.
So you're, John, are you of the opinion that there's value in allowing them to
I think we owe it to them to
Okay.
come back in and talk. I mean, it doesn't say, I mean, the way I understood sort of the advice we were given on this action is like, if we misapplied the law, or we think there's more, something else they wanna bring forward, it doesn't really say they have to have exactly new information.
Okay.
It's just, they come
Right,
back
right,
and argue it a
right.
different way.
So you're open to
I'm
having
open to them
back?
coming back,
Okay.
I mean,
So,
yes.
No,
would you
so
like to take a motion?
I'd like
do
to
that?
make a motion that we vote yes to actually allow them
review
to,
the case.
to resubmit and hear and to rehear the case.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I think,
Did you say aye?
I said,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's 3-0. So
And just
we
for
will allow this.
clarification, it's the case is 7-0-7.
Jeff, just do me I mean, just
Yes.
tell them,
It's not on
they
here,
they gotta show the uniqueness. They just, I guess
Yeah, I don't have the case number on this one. But I remember the case.
They're on it's on the folder.
yeah, we
So
saw.
it's 07
Apple folder, I-
twice.
So we're granting the rehearing of case 07172023-1 for 9 Woodrock Way.
Okay. And now make that part of the motion,
At our, yeah.
the adjusted motion, and we still approve.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so, and then there's one more?
And I would not, yeah, I don't believe they're looking for us to discuss that tonight.
Okay.
It just came in at the very, very end of last
It didn't
week,
make the agenda, so I would.
so.
Okay,
it didn't
so
make
we'll,
it.
we'll,
All
so
right.
this will be for November. We got a couple for November. Is there any other ones at this time for November?
Oh.
Not at the moment, okay.
You just
Alrighty.
jin- now you just jinxed us.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
Second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now adjourned.